On today's Revenue Roadmap, Albert reminds us of the power of human connection and why client service is key to growing a successful law firm business. Welcome back to the Revenue Roadmap, where we talk about driving revenue and increasing profits in family law firms. I'm your host, Tyler Dolph, and with me today is Albert Alguadich, Jr., a founding member of the Albert Matthews Law Firm, serving Fort Myers and Naples, Florida. Today, we're going to learn a little bit about Albert's history, how he was able to build his amazing firm, and some lessons he learned along the way. Albert, it's great to have you on the show.
Thank you, Tyler. Matt, it's a great pleasure to be here. Thank you.
I love it. Well, give us a little background, little perspective on your history. I was reading your bio on your website, and you were doing you have your Series 7. You've done some financial mentoring. I'd love to hear a little bit about your history.
Sure. So the Series 7 was because, in handling, well over 1,000 cases, I had reached a point in my career where I didn't want to help, people get divorced. It was hard to see people go through that day in and day out. It was before the pandemic, and so I needed to change. And so I went into work for a large broker dealer and got my licensing. But ultimately, the drive to be an attorney, isn't something you can, quell that easily. So I missed it. I wanted to get back into it after about a 2.5-year hiatus. I contacted a good friend and my current partner, Ken Damo, and we started Albert Matthews. But the Series 7 was a really eye-opening experience because when you're helping people build wealth, it's the same type of questions. It's just from a different perspective. It's not about, how am I preserving what I have? Or you're going from 2 incomes and a joint household to 1 household and 1 income. It's, can you preserve my wealth for an elongated period of time? So it helps. It helps with perspective, actually.
That's wild. So you were a practicing family attorney, right? Going through the day-to-day is certainly a grind. Took a hiatus for 2 years, and then came back and started your own firm. That's amazing.
Yes, no. And I had started, when I left law school, when we ended law school and studied for the bar. I'm from the Fort Myers area, I should say. I moved here when I was a child. And so my former wife and I moved back here and wanted to start a family in this area. And so I had received an offer to work at a firm in Naples, which didn't pan out all that well. The individual that was running the firm really wasn't present. I think that generally I was frustrated. And so after only a couple of months, maybe 6 at most, I decided that if I couldn't start my own law firm and make what I was earning there, I really should just consider possibly doing something else. So with the support of my parents and my former wife, I had started at that time what is technically a partner of this firm, Albert Alguadich, PA. And that was probably like the most defining moment in my career, to be honest. Starting that law firm from the ground up instead of looking for work, because it was 2012. People still were on the cusp of, should we hire? Is it recession? The prices were still depressed here. This area gets whacked by any recessionary movements pretty easily. So we had moved back to be near family, but it was kind of nerve-wracking, to say the least. And starting that firm that's where I really cut my chops into the sink or swim, fight or flight mode.
That is awesome. We talk to so many law firm owners who have been in that exact same spot. Do I go join another firm, or am I going to set up a shingle and do this myself? We've heard about, so many key lessons learned during that process, knowing that not only do you have to be an amazing attorney, you now have to be an entrepreneur. You have to learn how to run a business. Talk to us about some of those early days. Were there some key hires that you made or key decisions that really allowed you to sort of step off and be successful?
So when I started, when I first had that initial job offer, it was for a criminal and family law attorney who mostly did criminal. And I guess the biggest difference between criminal and family law firms from a financial standpoint is how they charge their clients. Criminal attorneys work on a flat fee representation. And so this individual had a lot of flat fee agreements that he hadn't fully been paid on. I think I took like $5,000 of payment plans over from him. He was happy to let go of the firm. He had actually closed after that. And so I had $5,000 of promised revenue. I had asked his paralegal to join me. So I was going to pay her a salary. That was scary. I had a little bit of money saved, and I just started doing with what I thought I knew already how to do, which was going out and meeting people. Like I said, I'm from the area, spent at that point 25 years here. So I went and met people. I told them I was a lawyer. I had made introductions to other attorneys in the area. I had gotten a reputation of being relatively quick on my feet as a trial attorney. So then from there, it was just meeting people and trying to get people in the door to have a consultation. I tried some level of marketing that got people to meet with us, and website clicking, advertising, things of that nature. It helped for a little while, but it wasn't an overall. It wasn't a solution for us at the time, and so we just continued to help people. And then I focused on learning the accounting, YouTubing things about how to build a chart of accounts, how does QuickBooks work. It was a lot of 14, 15-hour days, 6.5 days a week, especially that first couple of years. I felt bad for my former wife. She didn't see me very much.
I mean, it is a grind, right? Opening an office and starting a business is harder than people make it seem. Everybody talks about that whole overnight success takes 5, 6, 7, 10 years. That seems like you went through that same journey. On the other side of that, knowing that you eventually, stopped working at that firm, you did the financial advisor thing, and now you started this firm with your partner. Doing it the second time around, or third potentially, was it easier? Was it okay? I know accounting, I can get that done. I know hiring.
I mean, so I had a little bit more to the story. Was after about 2.5 years of being on my own, I had been approached by 3 prominent law firms. And so I took a step working with what I consider to be he's a very respected attorney. He's essentially the professor emeritus of family law in our coast. And I really enjoyed working with him and his 2 partners. I ended up leaving that firm with one of the partners, and we started a partnership. Because as much as I enjoyed working for a really prominent firm, they're very decent human beings. I mean, beyond decent. I really missed being, in the entrepreneurial spirit of things. Once you get used to that, I mean, if you're willing to go out on your own and open your own office, and if you have any modicum of success, there's nothing better than watching somebody put their entire trust in you and you deliver. I tell people all the time, I do not guarantee results. I guarantee effort. And I learned that a long time ago. It's not just treating others the way you want to be treated. It's somebody comes to you with a problem. And maybe it's more my personality that I really feel for the people that I work with, because they're going through probably the second most traumatic moment in their lives behind the death of a loved one. And so I put myself in their shoes. I try to figure out how to solve the issues reasonably. And so when I jumped to that firm, and it was a great experience from learning how to work with high net wealth individuals, I ultimately missed, forming the partnership and working through the day-to-day, the administrative tasks. That's part of it. I want people to rely on me. That's not just my clients. It's the people that I surround myself. Now, to answer your overall question, when I worked for the broker-dealer, there was really none of that. And so I think that's what was really missing. I have that fire in my belly to run my own office. And so when we started, it was just me and my partner. And then we quickly hired, actually, my mother was working locally at a doctor's office. She said there was a promising young woman who wanted to get into working as a legal assistant or a paralegal. She just didn't know how to make the jump. So she came over and joined the firm. I trained her as my legal assistant, and she's been my right hand for the last 3.5 years.
Incredible.
And she picked up quick. And then from there, now we have 4 attorneys, we have 4 support staff, and somebody who helps my partner with his title agency. So in 3 years, that's a pretty good amount of growth. I'm happy with it. So,
And where are you going from here? Tell us about the future.
well, the idea is to get more boots on the ground. We want to try to expand into the Naples market with somebody who's there full time besides my partner. I jump between both counties. I have one attorney that I've worked with that I've known for 10 and a half years. She works for us remotely. And then I have another attorney who works in the Fort Myers office with me in person. And ideally, we would like to be able to open offices a little further north in the Sarasota and the Tampa Bay markets. I don't know how quickly we can do that, but I also want to make sure that the progression is steady, responsible. We offer full benefits to our employees, so I want to make sure that we always have that option, and we're always financing that in a manner that would never be in jeopardy. So, on top of the fact that we're a very busy law firm, so I also have enough work to keep my eye on my computer screens, the 3 of them in front of me, for a 12-hour day consistently. So I gotta be responsible in that manner.
Albert, if I could summarize what I'm hearing, it seems like you have that passion, that work ethic to do whatever it takes to make your firm successful. You mentioned a couple times just the sheer number of hours that you're having to work to make your firm run. And I think someone listening to this who may be in a younger spot or just starting out, I mean, it's not easy. It's a grind, and you have to put those hours in to build something that you're truly passionate about. And then the other thing I'm hearing is your dedication to client service, doing the right thing, being able to meet your clients where they are, and be able to help them through such a difficult time in their life. We talk about values and culture a lot on this show. Would you say that those two definitely embody your firm? Are there any others that are worth sharing?
That's absolutely correct. You have to value what you're doing for an individual. I have a note I actually keep on my computer screen every day, and I have it staring at me for a reason. It says, just remember, you don't know what type of day they are having, so be kind. When I'm sitting and talking with somebody, if they're frustrated because their expectations of how a case should move, or if they're calling me for a first time, or maybe they're calling me 6 months after they've initially spoken with me, I really try to focus on that. Because when you're having that conversation with somebody who's going through what is a financially stressful and emotionally stressful time, you want to make sure that you're keeping into context that they're not a bad person. They're just going through a bad time. They may be reacting. I've been there. I've mentioned that I have a former wife, and luckily we're great co-parents together. But I can't say with any uncertainty that was the hardest experience of my life. And so, what better way to understand my clients than to have gone through it? I didn't necessarily want to learn the lesson to be able to vouch for the experience, but it is something that's valuable. It's kind of like when I was a younger attorney and I didn't have children. People say, well, do you even have children? Can you understand what we're going through? I have a child. I understand completely. I've been divorced. I understand completely to a certain degree. And so I utilize that. So we try to use pragmatism a lot too. Function over form is important when we're helping our clients, and being practical, being understanding, trying to work with them. Those are all, like you had already pointed out. It's the culture. It's just about putting the person first. I mean, we are a profitable firm, but we don't sit down and think about that when we start our day. We sit down and think about, okay, team meeting, what are we going to talk about today for this person's case? What's next on the agenda? What's this? What's that? I often get accused of forgetting to send out bills to my client and invoicing my clients. And then they'll email me and say, are you going to send that out? And then, it's like, oh, crap,
Right.
I've forgotten, And so that's kind of a fun problem to have. Like when I'm sitting here worried about the work, more than the bottom line. That's a big difference than, the first couple of years, because then you're wondering, okay, am I going to get a consult that's going to, hire us so I can pay my paralegal? Those aren't fun
No,
days, but they're also, that's
necessary.
that you have to become comfortable being uncomfortable to succeed. You cannot go through life thinking that you're going to be comfortable. And I push myself to be uncomfortable every day. I was just teaching my daughter this lesson over the weekend. My brother, he's an entrepreneur as well. He works in the Orlando market. And so him and I were having this discussion with my 8-year-old, telling her, similar things to sort of breathe the fire in her belly. So as she gets older, she remembers these lessons. Hopefully I'm there to continue to teach them to her, but I want to make sure I start early.
I love it. It's so true. Just back to the whole customer service thing. Everyone's talking about the advancement of AI and technology and, replacing jobs and all the things. And it's going to be, great. It's going to change the world. But it's funny how often we hear client service as paramount to success in this space. The human connection is still so important in building a successful law firm.
Yes.
And it's great to hear you validate that.
Yes, absolutely.
Albert, we are so grateful for your time. I'd love to end us on a lesson for a young law student, a new attorney who's thinking about maybe starting their own firm or jumping to a bigger firm. What's one or two things that they should be thinking about or know beyond everything else that you've taught us today, which has been amazing?
If you're going to start your own law firm, my biggest suggestion is ask everybody you trust for their input, their thoughts. Don't take it personally if they tell you they don't think it's a good idea. They're not naysaying you. They're just giving you their concerns, and you did ask. So you can't be mad at them. Take everything in as part of the process. Take it all under advisement, and then literally write it out. I am big on handwriting things. I handwrote my bar exam, for crying out loud, and I would make lists every weekend in the morning of things that I wanted to accomplish for the next week, the next year, the next 5. I still have those lists. So I would do that if I were starting a new law firm or if I was coaching somebody on how to start a law firm. As far as the jumping to a bigger firm, when I evaluated the options, and there were 3 lovely and very accomplished firms, have great lawyers in them, I considered which one was the experience that I wanted to have based upon the conversations I had. I didn't think about money so much that I thought about the individuals I'd be working with. Would we mesh well? The 3 individuals I worked with were all from Long Island. I'm originally from New York, so we all got along. At least we had the same favorite sports team in mind. But joking aside, they were great people, and I meshed well. And so I didn't think about the money. I thought about what can they teach me? What can I offer them? And how can I work hard to, achieve those goals? So think about it from that perspective. At no point in either of those two, if you're going to jump to a bigger firm or you're going to start your own, you really should not be thinking about, well, what's going to give me the balance of life? I'm not saying you shouldn't have one. I'm just saying that if you want to be really successful, and if you're an entrepreneur, you're working all the time in some way, fashion, or form. So that work-life balance that you hear about, I don't subscribe to it. To some extent, I've had to learn as I have a child, and making time for her. But that's part of the thing. She knows if I'm taking a phone call, I might be helping somebody or I might be doing something important. So it's all about focusing what you have in front of you in the moment. But don't think about a clock. There is no clock.
Get the work done, do a great job, and
Yep.
service your clients well.
Yes.
Albert, I'm so grateful for your time today. I really appreciate your story. I'd love to have you on again to take a deeper dive. But until next time, thank you everyone for joining us on the Revenue Roadmap, and we will see you very soon.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
If you like this episode and want to hear more about the Revenue Roadmap and successful family law firms, make sure to subscribe and check us out as we're interviewing successful law firm owners every single week. Thanks and have a great day.